welcome to our weekly webinar here at Route Consultant. Hope you're having a great week. My name is Jesse Smith. I'm the Director of Operations Training here at Route Consultant. I've got almost 20 years of experience in the FedEx Ground universe. We're really excited to be here today. I love doing these webinars and getting to talk to you guys out there, guys and gals out there. You may have seen me on one of these before. You may have seen me at a past roadshow or expo, maybe on one of our YouTube videos. If that's you, welcome back. Glad to have you here. To all of our new people, we're glad you found us, and we hope that you find this to be helpful, educational, informative, and most of all, fun. Yes, we do try to have some fun here each week. So with that, I'm going to do the most fun part of each webinar. I've got to read a quick disclaimer, so let me get through this. Route Consultant is not endorsed by and is not recommended by Federal Express Corporation, FedEx Ground, or Amazon. Route Consultant is not sponsored by, is not approved by, is not associated with, and has no connection whatsoever with Federal Express Corporation, FedEx Ground, or Amazon. Now, before we get going, if you've been here before, this is not a shock, but we have a weekly tradition here as part of our fun and shenanigans. We have an open Q&A time here at the end, which you can ask any question related to FedEx Ground, the logistics space in general. We're here to answer that. It does not just have to be related to the topics at hand today. But before you can ask a question, you've got to answer a question for us first. So our weekly question of the week today is Vegas inspired because of our upcoming expo, Gordon Ramsay or Bobby Flay? Now, for me, as most weeks, there's really only one right answer to this, in my opinion. I'll share my opinion here soon. My co-host will share his opinion as well, and we'll have some fun with that, I hope, later. Again, thinking of Vegas, our expo coming up. Now, if you do enter a question for Q&A, we need you to put that in the Q&A feature, not the chat feature. So again, if you put it in chat, we usually reserve that for announcements and contact info and things like that. If you want to ask a question, make sure to hit that Q&A button, make sure we'll see it. Now, before we get into our content today, I've got a couple of things to talk about. First of all, the upcoming events, the big one, the one that we've all been waiting for, the expo, not this weekend, but next weekend, July 29th and 30th in Las Vegas at the Paris Hotel. We brought in the big guns this year. We've got Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. That's going to be our keynote speaker on Saturday night. Our first room block filled up already. We were allowed to get a second room block at a slightly higher price, but still decent rate there. If you want to get there, you need to get your rooms now, especially if you can stay at the Paris. That is the ideal scenario. So you're not having to fight those Vegas crowds getting to the hotel for all the conferences. Everybody's going a million different directions in Vegas, as you may know. So stay at the Paris if you can. Use our room block. We still have a couple of those left. Looking forward past the expo, we have three things I want to mention today. First of all is August 14th and 15th. We have a new investor summit here in Music City at our HQ in Nashville. This is, again, for a new investor looking to get into the space, looking to learn more about FedEx Ground routes. This is the place to do it, both line haul, line haul runs and P&D routes. Got all the info you could possibly want crammed into 2 days. Come see us in person on August 14th and 15th. August 17th, a few days later, we've got a happy hour in Denver. So come see us out in Denver. We try to do as many of those West Coast, Western, into the country events as we can. Most of our stuff is more on the east side, but we love getting out west whenever we can. That's August 17th, a happy hour in Denver. And then the final one is August 28th. We've got a one-day only line haul summit here in person in Nashville. So if you're just exclusively interested in line haul, no P&D, you just want to get the standing on line haul, come see us in Nashville on August 28th. We can get you all the line haul info that you want. One more thing before we get into our content today. We got some inventory. We've got 4 new listings for you guys today. 3 that are P&D, 1 line haul. So let me read these real quick. Our first one here is P&D, Northern Indiana, 7 P&D routes at $650,000. This one's got good, healthy EBITDA margins at 21%. Comes with 1 manager, which handles DRO, 8 trucks, including 1 spare. The fleet is 2020 or newer models. So always good to keep those repair and maintenance costs down. From a contractor with nearly a decade of experience, Seller financing is an option for qualified buyer, and this one might be eligible for SBA if you want to look into that. Next one is in Southwest Ohio. We've got a 15 P&D route operation at 1.35 million. This is also a healthy margin, 19% EBITDA. One manager. Apparently, this is a very, very capable manager that if you're looking for a remote ownership opportunity on the P&D side, this manager will be able to handle what you need on boots on the ground. It comes with 16 trucks, high value fleet, all are 2020 or newer model trucks. Assumable truck debt is an option on this. Seller financing also an option. This one does not operate on Sundays. Western Florida got a 9 P&D route operation at 625,000, 18% EBITDA, one driving manager. So you got a BC, business contact, who also serves as a driver. Really helps with that bottom line. If the manager is good with it, always a good option to utilize. 10 trucks in this operation, including one spare for maintenance needs, no truck debt on these. If you want an operation in a growing beachfront territory, these Florida routes, I'll tell you, they go quick. They're in high demand. So if you want to get in Western Florida, this might be the one for you. And this one is a Monday through Friday only operation. Those are pretty few and far between. So if you really want that full weekend for your drivers to be able to rest and relax, this might be the operation for you to look at. Then we do have one line haul opportunity today. This is out in Kansas, 4 runs for 1.3 million. This one's at a 9% EBITDA margin, no manager, which is typically, that's about right for an operation of this size. Comes with 5 tractors, and that spare is for maintenance needs. 3 of the 5 in the sale are new leases, 2023 models. So this one is high mileage team runs, really good to bring in that revenue. And this is a really good remote ownership opportunity as well. Okay, let's transition into our content for today. So as you might imagine, our last webinar before the expo, we're not going to have one next week. So don't try to tune in next week. We're not having one. This is the last one you get to see our pretty faces on before we see you in Vegas. So what we're going to talk about today is the content we're going to bring to you. We're really kind of pivoting this year, and we don't just want to talk exclusively about FedEx routes. Now, that's still our bread and butter. That's still going to be the main focal point of the expo. FedEx Ground, anything and everything you want to know about it, networking with fellow contractors. We're still bringing the whole FedEx Ground package. But this year, the theme is really about diversifying your investments, not just putting all your eggs in one basket. You know, any good investment strategy, if you've got all your money sunk into a FedEx Ground route, you're looking to maybe say, hey, I want to diversify and get something else in my portfolio. We're going to teach you how to do that. We're going to give you some really good viable options that we have looked into and researched deeply to give you some potential other opportunities out there outside of the FedEx Ground universe that we all know and love. Along with that, I did mention earlier, you will hear from Kevin O'Leary. Mr. Wonderful himself will be here telling us all about the cold, hard truth. Really excited about this one this year. And in addition to this, I'm also excited about the fact that we've got 3 different tracks. We've got new investor content, we've got current contractor content, and we've got manager content. So we're really trying to encourage new investors. If you're not yet a contractor, that's okay. Go ahead and come to the expo. We'd love to see you there. You can learn. This is literally the best event of the year for you to learn about what we do and what this industry is all about. And then, of course, you know, contractors, you guys, if you've been here before, you know what it's all about. And then managers, we encourage you, if you can afford to get your BC off the road or whatever he or she does, bring them with you to Vegas. We've got a ton of good content, some of that which we'll talk about today as we kind of give you a sneak peek. But we got a specific manager track that we think your BCs will really benefit from. In addition to the things we're going to talk about today, which we'll get to in a minute, we'll be talking about the looming UPS strike, which is one of the big hot topics. I'm sure we'll get some questions about that today. We'll talk about recruiting. And honestly, to me, one of the coolest things that I've seen is our HR director, Melody. We pulled her in for several sessions on things like structuring benefits, assessing your culture, and of course, the big hot topic as cannabis becomes more and more popular in more and more states, it's becoming legal. How do you deal with that within FedEx Ground How do you deal with employees that are, they know they can't be on cannabis for this job, but there's a host of things that you have to deal with, competing with Amazon, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to tell you all about that, pitfalls to avoid. Come see us, get the whole scoop on HR topics this year as well. So specifically today, there's a few content areas that I really want to highlight that we're super excited to bring to you all. To do that, I'm going to bring in my co-host here today, my old man, Greg Smith. If you want to go ahead and come on camera here, Dad. I got the privilege this year of doing 4 of my 5 sessions with Dad. Now, I just want to give you guys a quick request. If any of you all on this webinar are going to see me in Vegas, please bring me some green tea, some echinacea, something. I will be doing a lot of talking during this expo. So if you see me in the hallway, I need to have a voice through both days. Okay, so if you see me, bring me some green tea, get me rejuvenated. I'm gonna need you guys' help with that. Dad, welcome back to the webinar. Do you want to give everybody just a real thumbnail sketch of who you are if they haven't seen you before, and kind of your history in the industry?
Absolutely. So Jesse and I started this together back in Rome. No, we weren't in Rome, Georgia. We were in Columbia, Tennessee, south of Nashville, weren't we?
Well, we did deliver papers way back in the day in Rome, Georgia.
We did. Yeah. We did do paper routes. That's right. Yeah, that's where we really got our feet wet on the delivery business, didn't we? Yeah. Anyway, the scars still remain, I guess. But anyway, Columbia, Tennessee in 2004. Jesse was 18, and he jumped with me probably from maybe not the very first day because I had to have a manager with me, but soon after. Jesse, I know that first peak season, you were there right alongside with me most of the days, you were Mom. And we went from there to a larger operation, saw the transition from the IC model to the ISP model, and then sold out to Spencer in 2013. And then you came back, and you were still working with the original operation, parts of the original operation we started, right?
Yes.
And you eventually became a BC of that. And then I entered back in. Spencer gave me an opportunity to come back to my hometown of Champaign, Illinois, and manage for him in 2016. And been there with him ever since. And then we both transitioned into the office with Route Consultant back in August. So it's been a pretty wild, this will be my 20th peak season. We'll be going through this year, won't it? So it's going to be it's been an interesting ride, and it's going to get I am so excited. I am just thrilled. I'm not looking forward to the plane ride, but I am looking forward, number one, to seeing everybody that I only get to see once a year. And then I'm just, we've been working our butts off here with content, because we just, one of the lines you'll know about me as a speaker, Jesse, is what? If it's not killer, it's filler. You all got no time for filler. So I'm telling you, if it ain't killer, it ain't making our presentation. Someone else can do filler. We aren't doing that this year, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So Dad, as I mentioned, we're doing 5. Well, I'm doing 5 sessions. I think you're doing 4 with me. So what I want to do is kind of walk everybody through what we're going to be talking about. Obviously, we're the most excited about these. Everything is going to be great. We've talked to the people that are talking about bread routes, which is going to be a brand new opportunity for everybody. It was eye-opening to me to see what that was all about. We're going to have plenty of expertise on that. But specifically for our people that have been with us for a while, that like, hey, Route Consultant is where we go to get expertise on FedEx Ground. What do we have for them, Dad? We've got 4. Where do you want to start on these, Dad?
Yeah, we're going to go with management training. So we've actually broken it into 2 sessions this year, Jesse. Management training 1, as it sits on the schedule now, you can go to routeconsultant.com. I think it's pretty well finalized, or maybe a few last minute changes, which you can get on the app once you get to the expo. But it's scheduled now to be Saturday at 12:30. And so I'm going to give you, Jesse, I'm going to get real unpopular really quick here with our listeners today, because I'm going to give you a homework assignment. Okay. I'm giving you a homework assignment before you come to the expo. Okay. And that is, define the term active listening. Okay. If you know a little bit about active listening, that's really the focus of what Jesse and I are doing. And we've just seen that as a real key in management. And so if that's something you can learn before you get there, you'll really be ahead of the game. We're going to break that down for you. Communication is a huge focus. We're going to be focusing on all the different roles that are in your FedEx Ground operation, from the AO all the way down to to the driver realm and the lead driver and the BC and all those, and how communication is key in those. And then we're going to take a deep dive into the various motivational conflicts in your team. And I'll tell you, Jesse, I'll praise him right here. He has come up with a chart that honestly is worth the price of admission. If you didn't get anything else out of this first management training session we have, if you can see this, you can see this chart. It is absolutely incredible, that defines where conflicts, motivational conflicts, come in between everybody with their different roles in your operation. Really help you to kind of understand and how to try to overcome those. Okay.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. And then part 2 is going to be, we're actually got something really fun. I don't want to give too much away on that one, Dad, but we've got a really fun team building activity for you guys. So if you come to that, please bring your BC to that. I think we'll have a very enlightening and helpful. In fact, that's probably what I'm looking forward to the most, is this activity we got planned for you guys in session number 2. It's practicing active listening, basically. Yeah. And we really want your different members of your team to be able to understand where the other person is coming from. And we want to practice that a little bit. So that's all I'm going to give you. We're going to try some really creative things, but come to that session. It's going to be really, really fun. And we'll probably try to get 2 or 3 different sets of participants in there.
Yeah. So these would be really great, or you'll get to watch us crash and burn, right? Jesse?
Exactly. Yes.
We're going to go out on a limb and try something different this year.
And by the way, if you guys are coming and you know someone else that's coming and you want to nominate them, please get with us and tell us. We will pull them out of the crowd and make them do this activity. So yes, please let us know. But no, seriously, it's going to be a fun one. I'm really looking forward to that one. The next one, Dad, that we have spent a lot of time on that I am psyched about as well is company culture. So tell us a little bit about what we got planned for that one.
Well, to start this out, a lot of people probably don't think that much about company culture. They think it's fluff. They think it's just, it's kind of a corporate buzzword kind of a thing. 2 things about it. Number one, the biggest statistic that jumped out at both of us in this, and that's the only one, we'll give you some others at the expo, but 77% of new employees looking for a place to work pay attention to company culture before applying for a position. I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? More than 3/4 of everybody and you wouldn't think of that, but 3/4 of them want to know, what's the company culture like? What's it like to be a part of the group that I'm joining? Before they look at money, before they look at potential for promotion, any of those types of things, they're looking at culture. I mean, that's huge. And we really, Jesse, we ourselves will admit, right? We've never really taken the time to break it down and to look at it and define it and see how we can improve it. We just kind of like, it's either a good one or a bad one, and we go on. So if you're an existing business owner, if you're an AO that's not been in business for very long, or if you're thinking about getting into this space, this is a super critical one for you to come to, because you have a culture of your own that you will be bringing into the business. And sometimes we talk to AOs and BCs and there's a conflict. It comes down to a culture issue, right? Okay. So, and then the final thing is it's all about profit. Okay. And believe it or not, Jesse has discovered some hidden ways that you are losing money you've probably never thought about in relationship to culture. Okay. Just going to leave it there. We're going to find you ways to make money in relationship to culture. I challenge you to come and see this, and we're going to help you.
Yeah. Well,
Jess, another one we're super excited about. In fact, just yesterday, we visited another express integrated terminal. So tell them about this.
This is the big one, guys. I'm sure we've got people coming to Expo for this session alone. And yes, I just kind of tooted our own horn, I guess, but it's not about us, Dad. This topic is one of the hottest topics right now in the space. The integration of the FedEx Express network with the FedEx Ground network. We're going to give you the latest data, and I mean the latest, from people both inside FedEx and from contractors that we've talked to. So we're pulling in every resource that we built up over 20 years. We're pulling these together to bring you everything we've got on this. We've contacted people in at least half a dozen terminals that are integrated. Yes. We will have hard answers for you. There's going to be some things that we're not going to be able to answer because, as you might imagine, Dad, there are certain people that are real closely guarding their books on this. And so we're going to give you as much as we have in terms of the revenue to expect, the percentage of your volume, what the time definite services are going to look like, the new terminology we're all going to have to deal with, more acronyms, right? That's exactly what we need. And then we're going to talk about strategies to overcome the challenges of, yes, you have more stops, you have more revenue, you have more density, but the density you have is mostly made up of time critical or time definite deliveries that you have to be there by a certain time. And people are asking, doesn't that cancel out the revenue if the drivers have to hit all their time definites and then go back and do their regular route? That is the $64,000 question. We have encountered several different strategies that contractors are using to win and get the most out of this new revenue stream that they've got with the FedEx Express integration. This is the one that if you want to know what's just all the latest and greatest, come see us in this one. We're hoping for a packed house on this one, Dad.
Absolutely. So I'm going to tell you, you're going to get there. You're not going to get anywhere else. Okay. We have just been blessed just to have some great friends that have shared stuff with us. And I will literally I've got a phone call scheduled next Tuesday night, which literally the night before I leave to the expo, with another contractor to talk about express integration. So I want you to know, as always, at Route Consultant, we are there on the front lines for you. Even though we're not contractors ourselves now, we are still just as much in contact, just as much in tune with what's going on in the industry. So Jesse, we're going to kind of flip to the absolute opposite end of the spectrum. So from something new to something old, but something that it continues to be probably the biggest recurring problem that contractors or frustration area that they face. And so we just thought is super important because of the number of calls you get on a weekly basis. Hey, we need to do more training. And even with the express integration, there is some additional things, and everybody's favorite 3 words in the FedEx alphabet, right?
Yeah.
DRO. So talk us about what you're going to do with that this year.
Yeah, this is one I'm flying solo on this year. It is my favorite subject. So if you want to hear me just nerd out with you, I will talk to you as long as you guys want. If you pigeonhole me somewhere at the expo, I will get the conversation back to DRO. I can promise you. Okay. So I'm going to tell you all the latest and greatest strategies I'm pulling in from my years of experience as a BC, as an operations director, looking at just dozens and dozens and dozens of different kinds of territories, various challenges, territories that are, very close to the hub. Maybe they're run out of a co-location where their stop projections, their volume projections for the next day are completely wonky, versus ones in Rapid City, South Dakota, right? Where it's just spot on every single night.
Yeah.
Overcoming the different challenges, improving communication with your BC, how to create routes. Like there's some seriously underutilized just high level weapons that you can employ when you're thinking about what makes a good FedEx route. We think in terms of, we want that stop density, right? But how do we put the stop density to maximum use for us so we can extract maximum profit from that, while also not burning our drivers out and paying a lot on the back end for driver retention and recruiting, right? We want to marry all those pieces together. And that's really what this year's DRO session is focused on. That holistic picture. Yes, DRO is sort of the hub, but all these spokes that feed into it, what's a holistic strategy to win with DRO?
Absolutely.
And then the final thing, Dad, this is not a session per se, but this is one that you've been preparing for and you're really excited about. You got a little treat for everybody on Sunday morning. What do you have for us?
Absolutely. So those of you that know me know that I was a vocational pastor for many, many years. And we've had a lot of people since the expo is going to be over a Sunday that said, hey, is there going to be an opportunity for us to get together for a time of fellowship and, and reflection. And so we're going to do that from 7:45 to 8:15. So you got to be committed to it, right? But it's just a 30-minute session. We guarantee you we're going to guard that time very, very closely. Just some things that I want to share with you. Some of my life experiences about my dad that I think will be helpful to you. I'm just really looking forward to Spencer's allowing us to have this time together. So if you're an early riser, you want a little bit of inspiration on Sunday morning, then join me at 7:45. I think it's in Versailles 1 and 2, and we'll have a great time together for about 30 minutes to kick things off before you can run on over to the opening session with Spencer and Anna Lee at 8:30 Sunday morning. It's going to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone, please, we want to talk to you. This is that it's our favorite thing, because as we're not in operations, we get to interact with all these different contractors that are doing things that we never thought of, and we get to share things they've never thought of, right? We love this for the networking. So as you said, Dad, this is same for me. My favorite event of the year, getting to come and see all of my favorite people in one place. Come see us at Las Vegas this year. All right. Now, as promised, we're going to do open Q&A. I see a couple of questions have already been dropped in. Go ahead and drop those questions in. And again, it does not have to be on anything Expo related. It can be on any FedEx Ground related topic whatsoever, or big picture logistics industry type of issues. Anything you want to know, let us know, and we'll do our best to answer. Before we do that, Dad, Gordon Ramsay or Bobby Flay?
Well, it's just as our palates are different, our tastes in those that prepare things for our palate are different. So I'm a huge Bobby Flay guy. I guess my biggest thing that I like about Bobby Flay, he watches his show on the Food Network, try to beat Bobby Flay. Beat Bobby Flay, I think is actually the name of the program. But the thing that I guess I like the most about Bobby Flay, brilliant chef, as is Gordon Ramsay. Very successful as an entrepreneur in the restaurant business. That goes without saying. But the thing I like about Bobby Flay is not only is he a gracious loser, but he's an even more gracious winner. So in that program, when he wins, which he does most of the time, because he's just brilliant the way that he throws stuff together. It's just great. I just enjoy watching him, and he just really seems to really enjoy cooking. He takes heat from people in the show, but he just seems like a great guy. And then, of course, his restaurant is right there in the basement of the Paris. And his milkshakes. If you didn't get a milkshake at the Paris last year from Bobby Flay's restaurant, get one this year. It was phenomenal.
I'm going to have to disagree with your overall assessment, but I agree with the milkshake part. So the limited exposure I've had to Bobby Flay's actual cooking in his restaurants is very good. Okay. But it's not Gordon Ramsay level. Yep. And again, I will get in big trouble with my significant other if I answer anything other than Gordon Ramsay. Thankfully, I do actually believe that. I've got a Gordon Ramsay cookbook and a favorite recipe, as you know, Dad. The steak sandwiches that he makes are just mouth-watering. Absolutely love Gordon, all his different series that he does. Great entertainer, great business person. Just love the guy, top to bottom. So with that, let's get into these questions. We've got a couple right now. And again, if we get through these questions and you want to ask one and you have not asked it yet, we're shutting it down when the questions are done. So go ahead and get them in here. So first one is from Brainer Mendoza. Hi, I want to meet with a consultant to structure my path to start my business. Is this still a good business to invest in this year and the years to come? So, Brainer, the answer to the first question is yes, and we can get you contact info. Brent, if you could drop that or contact Brainer directly and get him in contact with one of our consultants. Brainer, we'd be glad to talk to you about that. The short answer for your second question, the long-term prognosis, is a resounding yes. This is something, and not just with the Express integration, with the looming UPS strike. There are just a number of reasons. E-commerce being what it is, it's virtually just continued to grow ever since it became into existence. This is something that I personally still strongly believe in. I think this is a really good industry to be in. Now, with this said, this is an industry that if you're resilient and you deal well with change, you are going to crush it, okay? It's not without its challenges, of course, just like with any business, any kind of industry. It's not without its challenges, but yes, resounding yes, this is absolutely the type of business that you can make money in. And we see people doing it all the time. You can meet people at the expo that have found ways that they're making money even in a down economy. So yes, absolutely. Logistics is something I would recommend to get into, and FedEx Ground route specifically. Ben Eisenhower, he says, oh, Bobby Flay without a doubt. So check one for you, Dad. Quick question from Ben. This is a good question here. I noticed there are multiple sessions at the expo occurring within a single block. For example, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. There are 3 sessions operating concurrently. Do we pick a session to attend, or are the sessions broken down in segments within that hour? Great question, Ben. The answer is you will need to pick the session that you want to go to. They will be running concurrently. You will notice when you get the schedule in person at the expo, it'll list the rooms. And so they're all in different rooms at the same time. You will need to pick which one to go to within each hour.
Well, I can make it easy for Ben. Just pick the ones that Jesse and I are doing in that hour. That will be the best session during that time.
Yeah, and
so
we get the
I'll make it easy for you.
We get the bully pulpit right here, Dad. You know, Melody is not here. Leland's not here. Yes, come see us, please. Come see our sessions. All right, last one here. If you have another question, go ahead and get it in here. All right, David Branch, good question. Now his answer to this, he went third option, Dad. He went Wolfgang Puck, and I can get behind that. You know, he's a little bit more out of the limelight. That's one reason I like Gordon, is he's right there in your face, right? The entertainer to the core. But Wolfgang Puck, his recipes they're spot on. That's a good choice there. His question, Dad, what is the status of FCAM requirements for P&D? You want to take that one, or you want me to take it?
Absolutely. First of all, you know, I'm just not going to eat something by somebody prepared it by the name of Wolfgang. I mean, seriously. I mean, I'm just kidding. He is great too, Jesse. I totally agree. Great entertainer too. That's what I love about all those guys, right? Is they got a personality as well as they cook their butts off. So it's really fun. But so FCAM is something that was coming on, as you all know. FedEx, kind of the progression of everything technology wise in the FedEx Ground world, starts on the line haul side and trickles down into the P&D side. And FCAM was one that FedEx was ready to do that, but I think they hit the pause button for a couple of reasons. One, it has to be a manufactured thing, right? In other words, it can't be retrofitted. And I think they learned their lesson on that in the in the tractor world. It took them a while for them to be able to put that in, where all the manufacturers, because that's an expensive changeover for them to put that in. And so I think it's a similar thing in that the manufacturers are not ready to adopt that yet in the step van world that we live in, and certainly not in the, gosh, I just can't imagine a day, maybe I'm wrong, where it would actually come into like the Ford Transit world, Jesse. I mean, can you imagine that happening in that size of a vehicle? The percentage of what it would cost to add that to it, you know, it would be pretty high. So they have put the pause button on that. But I will say, once it's on FedEx's radar and an idea for it to do, and it's already been implemented on the line haul side, it will eventually come to the P&D side. I don't know that there's been a single thing where that hasn't trickled down. So I couldn't tell you when that's going to be. My guess is, like on the line haul side, I think they gave them like 3 years or something, or maybe more, to be able to get that, to make that a standard, a contracting standard. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of time on that, but it's going to come, but it's not going to come in the next. I think it's safe to say you won't see it in the next 3 years, but it will come.
Yeah, absolutely right. Chad McCurdy, you got another vote for Bobby Flay from Chad here, Dad.
But boy, Chad, come see me.
Yeah, he's got a great question. I'm going to give this one directly to you, Dad. It looks like he's a prospective investor. Okay. He asks if we are not able to interview the BC we're about to be leaning on in our new business prior to deciding on a new purchase, how can we judge his or her effectiveness or ability? I have heard it is not normal to meet and greet the key managers at a prospective business. Great question there. Dad, how would you handle that if you're looking at a business and you know that BC is sort of that keystone player on your team? How would you approach that situation as a prospective buyer?
Well, I guess the first thing I would do is I would be really clear on what it is I knew I was looking for in that person, Jesse. And I would hope for the best in that I could work that out, but I would also probably have a contingency plan if I was going in. So typically it's not a standard for us, anything that we broker within 10 days of the actual stand-up date is when somewhere within that time window that the BC and the new owner would actually get to meet. And, that's for the protection of the seller really as much as anything else. And that's not a slam on any VCs. There's some incredible quality. Just yesterday, you introduced me to another one, just an incredible quality VC candidate that we have out there. We see them all the time, but they talk. And so it's just, can make it difficult until we've seen lots of sales, right, Jesse, where FedEx moves the start of the stand-up date a week or 2 weeks later. I know you were involved in that, like up in Noki. And so if you do it too soon, there's a liability issue. But I would make sure I knew as an AO what I wanted in a BC, and then I would have a contingency plan if the person that I had wasn't there. And then I would have a game plan, and we would love to help you with that. To go through the BC training that we offer is not expensive at all. It's something that the AO should go through, and therefore they would be prepared. And then from day one, make sure they emphasize, I guess, number 4, that they emphasize as soon as they do get a chance to meet with the BC. We're going to talk about this a little bit in the management training, is to have what we would call an off the record discussion and time, kind of a bonding time with that BC. And so it's just the nature of the beast of how we've seen it to be most successful with the new stand-ups is to take that 10-day window and not allow that meeting to take place until then. But we can coach you through that. We can still, make sure that you are as successful as can be with that relationship, even in that 10-day time frame.
Yeah, well said. And something else I just kind of dovetail onto that, Dad, is you need to already have an idea, a very clear picture of what you want your level of involvement in the business to be. You need to go in eyes wide open with the expectations of, am I buying a business that's a turnkey? And I'll be honest with you, a lot of P&D operations, even if they are on paper, I still highly recommend that you're on site, on the ground for at least the first few weeks of owning this business, just to make sure you can lay eyes on all the things that you just cannot learn unless you're there. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be remote after that. And in fact, a lot of people own these businesses very successfully from remote, right? But
yep.
Again, going in eyes wide open, knowing what are my expectations for my own role and for my manager's role, having those clear, you can just ask the current owner straight up, hey, does your BC do this? Does your BC do that? Yeah. And then another thing I would say just real quick is look at the financials of the business. What do we always say, Dad? What's the number one predictor of profit in your business? It's the relationship of the owner and the business contact. And I can tell you this, if the BC is not doing a good job, that business is not making money. It's just not, because they're padding their route plan with other drivers that they don't need. They're putting too many drivers out on the road. They're probably not running safely. You're probably having a lot of contribution costs towards, insurance and things like that. So bottom line, make sure you know from the seller and from yourself, what am I going to be doing, and what is the BC already used to doing, and what should I expect them to do when I get it?
Yeah, great question. Absolutely. Very good. Very, very good.
All right, next question here, AJ Molly, Gordon Ramsay fan. Yes, thankfully we got one for Ramsay finally here. AJ asks, are all sessions being recorded? AJ, let me confirm that. I am about 99% positive they're not. We don't record the expo sessions because we like this to be a live in-person experience. So don't count on it. If that does change, well, I'm sure we'll probably make an announcement about that. That would be a pretty big change from the way we've done it in the past. But no, I don't believe they are. And again, if I'm wrong, hold me to that. But you know what? I guess the answer to that, Dad, AJ just needs to come to the expo and see it for himself. So AJ, we hope we see you there at the expo next weekend.
Yeah, select sessions will be recorded. So obviously, like last year, I know, they recorded Spencer's, both of his keynote addresses. I would highly doubt and I'm not an agent, but I would doubt that the Kevin O'Leary session would be that's probably going to be a copyright issue with that one.
Yes.
But there'll be others that will, but you're right. The only way you're going to guarantee you're going to get it, and even some of the sessions that are there, I'm not sure we're going to necessarily make available to the general public. It's an expo and a party for us, for a family, right? And sometimes when the family gets together, there's things that you don't want maybe the general public to see and hear, right? The family does. So it's kind of an intimate little thing that we do. Most of the content you could still get to that from whoever the presenters are the expo sessions themselves, I wouldn't count on it.
Yeah. Next question here, Dad, is from Tim Fincham, Gordon Ramsay fan. Thank you, Tim. Tim is closing on a stand-up date of the 1st or 2nd of August. It would be whatever Saturday that is, Tim, would be the stand-up date. He asked, do you think that I can ask for a couple week delay to late August because I'm concerned about standing up at the beginning of the UPS strike? Dad, you want to take that one or you want me to?
Yeah, I think that's wise. I will just say the sooner you get that request in, the better. It's FedEx will delay that some themselves for various reasons. And I know that there's been times where they'll work with you. The biggest part of that, Tim, I would say, is I would make sure I ran that through the senior manager that you've already had meetings with, your AIM meeting with, and just talk to them and kind of tell them what your concerns are. And I think that's a very valid one. But at the same time, to be honest with you, a 2-week delay in your stand-up is not going to drastically affect your ability to be able to react to if the UPS strike comes in. Let's call it what it is, okay? I mean, you're talking about the big boy in the marketplace, okay? And if all of his packages come available, it's going to be, it's going to be a challenge for everybody, right? So I think that's wise if you can do that. But I would, if you do get that granted to you, I would be recruiting my socks off during that time, getting new drivers in, getting them through the qual cert, getting trained, getting them ready. Because if this baby hits, it'll be temporary, but you're going to need them.
All right, last question on the board here, Dad. If you guys have questions, go ahead and get them in. If not, we're going to close with this one. Alex Moriaitis says, Bobby Flay, he likes his style.
3-2, Bobby Flay.
I know. We got to get another GR in here. Someone help me out. So he asked, Dad, how do I deal with unassigned stops or black dots in DRO? So this is a little bit inside baseball one. I'm going to take this one real quick. Yeah. So an unassigned stop, if you're not familiar with DRO, you see on your overview map each night when you log in, you look at the next day's volume, all of your dots on the map are the stops that you have and where they're located. So all your different houses, businesses, whatever it is, they're going to populate on an overview map of your territory. Anything that comes in after you have executed the route plan will be what's called an unassigned stop. Now, when you log in the first time, all of the stops are unassigned because you haven't executed a route plan. You haven't said, I want these stops to go to this truck. I want these stops to go to this truck. You haven't submitted your plan to FedEx yet. So all of the stops are unassigned. But sometimes I do get this question. And what happens is, as the night wears on from that 8 p.m. to midnight planning window in DRO, what happens is, as FedEx updates their projections with the latest data of the boxes that are on the trailers on the way to your terminal from the hub, there will be more and more black dots that pop in there that say, you're going to get this stop tomorrow. You're going to get this stop tomorrow. Now, Alex, you don't need to worry about these. And especially a lot of times people ask me about this because they're staying up until 11:59 to make sure they assign every last stop. You don't need to worry about that. So Alex, the way this works is whatever area you've set up, it's going to be assigned by the anchor area that it sits in, unless you have some other overriding factor like a stop override where you've pulled one single stop out of that zone and put it on another zone for another driver. Otherwise, it's going to use the constraints that are already plugged in there based on the anchor areas that you have set up, the zones you've got designed. All the black dots are going to get assigned the way they should. Now, if you're specifically talking about your unroutables, and I don't think you're talking about this, but if that's what you mean by that's a whole other thing. Those are going to be stops that the system just doesn't know what to do with. And typically this is a pretty small number, but these are going to be what we call our 999s, or in your terminal, it may be a different number, but these are going to be ones where there's something messed up about the address. And that won't even be, you won't even see that as a dot on the map. Okay, that won't even show up in most cases. Sometimes it will, but in most cases, you won't even see that on the overview map. So bottom line here, Alex, you don't have to worry about those unassigned. You can set your plan at 8 p.m. if you want, and you can just go to bed. So it's going to be totally fine. Oh, I love it. Alex, he likes my answer, Daddy. He's switching his vote to Gordon Ramsay. I love it. Okay.
Alex, come on. Wow.
Awesome. Well, Alex, I hope to see you at the expo. I'll have a special reward waiting for you there. Okay.
Alex, you don't need to come see me. No, I'm kidding. I'd love to see you.
All right. Last question. And Chad snuck one in here, Dad. All right.
Okay.
He's got a DRO question. How does the first overnight and the other time critical stops show differently than the current FedEx Ground stops that are end of day? Good question. Without giving too much away, because we're going to talk about this at the expo, I will give you a little insight onto how the first overnights work. In most markets, in fact, I think in every terminal we've looked at so far, Dad, virtually none of them are servicing those first overnights. So there is still, I think there's a couple, but
yeah, there are. There's one that I was
one. Okay,
but they're 20 minutes from the airport.
Not every single terminal is going to service the first overnight. So that's kind of the big thing. There will still for a while, and probably permanently, honestly, there will be an express presence somewhere in or near your territory that's going to service those first overnights. The one we went to yesterday, Dad, they had express drivers co-located in the ground building. So in some situations, Chad, they might just co-locate both of the operations and just have a few express drivers. So they're basically saving on the overhead, not having a separate building, saving on some management and sortation costs, right?
Right.
So, but those first overnights, those are a big struggle. They just don't integrate very well with the regular ground sort, because most of your sorts end after the first overnights are typically due to be delivered.
Yeah.
So with that said, there are some that do it, but those are probably going to have a wave dispatch where they're sending out one wave of drivers first and then waiting on the ground. The most of the ground stuff is going to go out on the second wave or some variation of that. In terms of DRO, they don't show any differently. So just a little bit of insight into that. The stops on DRO don't look any different. It doesn't say this is an express stop, this is a ground stop. What you do have is a little time critical button that you can show the window. And we already had this to see when our pickups were, right? If you had a 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. pickup, you could click on the map on the time critical button and see, all right, I've got this stop that's got to be there at this time, or this pickup that I've got to be at a certain time. It's going to be the same, except you're going to see the window for whatever time window it's going to be, whether it's a first overnight, standard, something later in the day, which again, we'll get into all that at Expo. But long story short, they're not going to look any different on DRO just off the bat. You're going to have to do a little bit more digging in terms of looking at that stop table below the map and seeing, okay, just do a little more digging to see this is probably an express stop. The size is really small, right? It's like 0.2 cube. It's probably an express stop with a 1030 window. That's how you're going to be able to tell this is a time critical, this one is not.
Yeah, two things, Jesse, with that. So all of the new FedEx Ground buildings that are being built with the express integration piece in mind. So there will be a presence. We were led to believe that, in the buildings we've been in that have those, that there will always be like you say, there will always be a certain segment of that, revolving around the TSA, and a lot of things we'll explain at the expo, but there will always be a presence of express in that building. Okay. Because they're just some, like you said, doesn't fit us. And so the other part is I'm confident, and you don't hear me say a lot of forward thinking things on behalf of FedEx Ground, but I'm confident, Jesse, as I know you've probably thought about this as well. DRO will evolve to where they will have better visibility the night before on these express stops. Okay. Ground Cloud has already done that. And so obviously the technology is out there in their data stream to make that happen. So I'm confident that they will, and I don't know how long it'll be, but I would think in the next 12 to 18 months, Jesse, they will have that as part of the DRO program. Now, how accurate and how functional it will be, well, it'll be as accurate as functional as DRO was when it was first introduced. Okay, so you'll have that piece, but I'm confident they're gonna help the contractors out in that way with the new DRO updates coming up.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Dad. That's all the questions I see. Thank you guys all for being here. It's been a whole heck of a lot of fun. Dad, thanks for being on with me. We will see you guys, hopefully all of you, in Vegas next week. Really excited to be there. Hope everyone has a safe trip. We hope to see you there. Dad, I will talk to you when I talk to you, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
See you all. Bye, everyone.